it is people made in God's image who are doing crimes too. We're all made in God's image. And so ministry is needed.
Reverend Johnson, you returned to pastoral duties after being gone for 20 years. You know, you've given your time in other capacities, but how difficult do you anticipate this transition process will be?
Oh, I hope not difficult. I don't anticipate much difficulty other than the usual teething pains. I guess that's because of how I live my life and how I order my life. I tell my family I'm low maintenance. N-O-W, not N-O, low maintenance. And so I am not fussy about things. I come anywhere I'm sent, throw myself in the work, do my best, and leave the rest to God. Because it's a kind of homecoming. And because I have served where I have served in the union, there are leaders here that I have good and strong relationships with. Because, as I said, some were here from I was a child.
And do you predict a warm welcome and return?
Oh, I hope so. Of course, the welcome is going to be so much different due to the pandemic. But it would have been much warmer if there was no pandemic and people could come, you know. I mean, there's always, as you can imagine, a buzz when a new relationship at any level starts. There's normally a buzz. And so I expect that would have been the case. And my initial conversations and discussions with the leaders have all been very positive and hopeful. I just spoke to a friend of mine this morning, and they said, "Boy, you're going to Spanish Town." And I said, "But wait, this is a person who worked in downtown Kingston for years, and I don't mean in the offices in downtown Kingston, I mean, tough parts." And I said to them, "Why are you acting as if it is worse than downtown Kingston?" They said, "Yes." And it is occurring to me, frankly, I didn't even think about it much, that there's a narrative now that will almost make Spanish Town be viewed as the center of iniquity. It sounds like, I'm telling you, when some of my friends heard, I said, why would? I suppose the case now in the courts probably has heightened that. And I said, but God's people are there. And it is people made in God's image who are doing crimes too. We're all made in God's image. And so ministry is needed. So, I mean, I don't come with any fear and trepidation. I come to join with the people to serve God. And hopefully we can impact lives and attend to some of the social inequities and the urban blight that has really and truly just demoralized the people here. It's time that we take back our town, the first capital, remember that? Take it back and show some pride in it. That can't be the narrative.
How would your pastoral role here differ from that of the executive role in the Jamaica Baptist Union?
It's a very interesting question, because in some way there are those who believe there are roles and miles apart. I have never felt that way. In fact, I could never have served as General Secretary if I did not see that office as in sync with my own call to the pastorate, to the ministry. So a huge part of what I did was pastoring in different settings. The ministers, the churches is giving it up in a pastoral capacity. The difference would be, however, that I would now have a congregation to focus and direct all the energies within this pastoral rubric. And so the difference will perhaps show itself in the kinds of engagements and relationships you will do on a day-to-day basis. So instead of meetings at Mission Center with different groups covering the 300-odd churches, it will be now embedding yourself into the life of the congregation and the community and seeing how you can make a difference by God's help.
And with that, how do you personally intend to reclaim the church's role and influence within this community?
I must say that I don't have a program for that, What I have a program to do is to serve and be faithful. And if in so doing, people will see the light and would wish, therefore, to listen to us more, then I would say, to God be the glory. But I am not coming here to run in the campaign as mayor or as MP. I'm coming here to serve the Lord. And that means being involved in every aspect of the congregation's life, of the community's life, because wherever people are, God is interested in them.
You mentioned that there are some members who cannot access the online streaming, and so this occasion, this connection with the church, how do you suppose this has affected them, and what has the church done to kind of, reach out to those members?
It's having a toll, and only God knows what the long-term effect will be, because there are people just longing for fellowship, and FaceTime alone can't do that. Zoom alone can't do that. I mean, it's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a struggle.
The capacity now is 50 for churches. And so is there any way that you perhaps can reach out to those who wouldn't have access to come in on those days?
Well, I can tell you we have started that. And we have talked about and put in a system to invite persons who have not accessed and are not able to access online offerings. They are the first priority. And I have asked my leaders to ensure that the evangelistic efforts of the church have come under, the traditional ones, have come under some stress, because our churches had become so accustomed to the kind of mass campaigning, evangelism, crusade type. What the pandemic did clearly is force churches to think more creatively as to how to reach people and to reach people with the gospel. The jury is still out, I would say, as to whether or not the church has seen a bump, an increase. I know for Phillippo, I have not yet. In fact, it's interesting because our church here runs October to September. So the church will be now gathering the information, and in my former life, up to yesterday, I will be the one receiving that information, interrogating it, and looking at it. So I have not been able to really deep dive yet into the stats. But Phillippo is a congregation that has a fair degree of mature, older members. And so, pandemic or no pandemic, just a natural passage of life. This church perhaps would have seen, on average, a few deaths per year. But I know that they did have 1 or 2 baptisms in the last church year. As to how many, as I said, I wouldn't have that figure right now. But we are going to have to find ways to reach people and to reach them where they are. And the online methodology cannot be the only way we use.
What are some of the things you hope to see in this community and the wider nation?
This might sound trite, might sound glib, but if God could just use me to let one life reclaim the sense of purpose and worth, then I'm telling you. And that's part of what I'd like to do, to be a part of, by God's grace. That too many around us have just lost their way. The young men, we have an education system that spews out hundreds of children every year without any kind of direction. They have no moral center, it seems, no purpose. And so whatever we are talking about, building people, we have to get back to those days of helping people to shape our people, that economics is not all. And part of my challenge, for example, don't want to sound like I'm harping on it. Go back to the regulations. Go back to the COVID-19 management. What lessons do we think we are sending? Don't you think we might be, I don't know, I'm asking questions I don't know. Don't you think we might be misunderstood by a young person to say money is more important than morals? I don't know. But I hear the youngsters them. And I'm just saying, we have to find a way, all of us, to do better, to better examples. My mother, blessed memory, was a teacher. And I learned early the concept of the hidden curriculum, that all of us bring a value system. And we pass that on whether we realize it or not. And so there has to be a commitment that it is equally important to aspire and achieve economically, educationally, as well as being sound, moral, ethical people. No, we're not perfect. But we must have standards. So when we fall, we say we are falling. And that is what I would like to contribute to. I hope to keep contributing to.
The society is aware that many other pastors and reverends and so forth has been campaigning for vaccination, a way of increasing the sense of normalcy. Do you have that opinion that churches should also campaign?
I think every single Jamaican should campaign, should do all we can to protect each other. And if we say we love each other, it must be something that we commit to.
Lastly, with the ongoing violence, against women, children, and men even, what kind of appeal would you make to the government and the people of Jamaica?
My appeal is simply, let's work harder. Let's work harder. Again, I don't want to sound trite, but it's really all hands on deck. It's a multi-layered problem. Multi-layered. It won't be solved overnight because we didn't get here overnight. But I believe there is enough goodwill and that God has not abandoned this country. that if we really begin to work from grassroots up, be consistent, let our yea be yea, our nay be nay. Jamaica is very small, you know. People have a sense of knowing those who are authentic. And some of us, we might be able to sanitize our public persona with glitzy and, very slick PR campaigns. But the people know us. The people see us. And I am saying that if we really begin to take it seriously, I heard someone asking a question which has become sadly rhetorical. When these young boys have these massive weapons, where did they come from? These are questions that were being asked from I was a child, to the point where they become almost rhetorical. They don't mean anything. They just ask for asking sake. And I'm saying we have to get back to that. Get back to a commitment to make a difference in this world. Devise the kinds of policies that are meant not to satisfy the insatiable appetite of those moguls, business and otherwise, but to how to liberate our people, how to strengthen our people, how to make every Jamaican have a place in this country. This church played a tremendous role in the fight against the horrors and iniquitous system of slavery. This church, through its leaders and members, were at the forefront of trying to fight for a better Jamaica. We have to continue that. A bastion, the church of freedom and human rights. Here lies the shackles for our forefathers since August 1, 1838. This right here. This tambourine tree represents, it speaks to our bittersweet experience. That's our legacy. We have to continue that. And I pray that God, in God's own mercy, He just give me an opportunity to assist and to partner with His people in this mission.